This is the new MacBook Air, and you can get a feel for how thin it is. Yeah, there it is.
This is the 2020 M1 MacBook Air, and it still sells for the same price as it did 2 years ago. In this video, I'll go over its legacy, its performance compared to competition, and I'm also going to tell you why it might be one of the best values in its price bracket even in 2023. The MacBook Air was first announced in 2008 when Steve Jobs famously pulled it out of a manila folder on stage. Now, this was during a time when most laptops were at least an inch thick and usually weighed about 4 pounds. With that perspective, the MacBook Air has always been ahead of its time in chassis design and in thinness. As time went on though, competition began to catch up, and you could usually find a Windows laptop that was just as compact and quite a lot faster than the MacBook Air. About 11 years after the original MacBook Air, the Core i5 2019 MacBook Air was released. On that laptop, even the simplest games like Minecraft at base settings could get no more than 20 FPS. Multitasking was kind of a joke, the battery life, it really couldn't last all day on a full charge, and video editing was just out of the question. Then, in 2020, Apple announced the first commercially available Apple Silicon machine, which was the M1 MacBook Air. Now, this laptop took the world by storm when it came out. Reviewers were going crazy to get their hands on it because, even though the base model still only had 8 gigs of RAM, it was so much more powerful than the previous generation that the 2019 MacBook Air, which originally sold for $1,100, tanked down to $500 on the used market. As soon as I possibly could, I sold my 2019 MacBook Air and I got my hands on this M1. For the past 2 years, this machine has served me incredibly well. I can easily edit 4K footage and extremely high resolution photos on the go. The multitasking is amazing and it lets me have an unholy amount of tabs open while never closing a single app. And its general speed and snappiness is just insane. I can run Minecraft at a smooth 200 FPS and even run some light shaders and still get about 60. The primary way for me to show off the M1 chip though is to open up all these apps at once. You can see I have tons of apps open, including Lightroom, Pixelmator, Minecraft with shaders, and even DaVinci Resolve, and it's all running perfectly and silently. Again, let me remind you, this thing only has 8 gigs of RAM. I've never seen a Windows laptop with 8 gigs of RAM do anything close to that. It does all of that while remaining one of the most well-built yet compact laptops on the market. Now, it weighs 2.8 pounds, which is pretty light, but it's not insanely light. But that's because it's milled out of a solid block of aluminum, and it's completely passively cooled. So rather than having a fan blowing air across a radiator, it's cooled entirely just with a chunk of metal that's touching the CPU. I went into a Best Buy to test some of the laptops there and compare them. On a large number of the laptops in here, you'll notice some significant deck flex. And on the other laptops with 8 gigs of RAM, the performance is just not the same. Apple has since released the updated version of the MacBook Air with the M2 chip. But that laptop costs a hefty $200 more than this one. They did give this one a new chassis redesign with a brighter 500 nit display and a better 1080p webcam and the MagSafe charging port. Now, even though that one does have an M2 chip in it, which is faster than this one, the heatsink in it is not nearly as good as this one for some reason, which means it ends up running into thermal throttling issues when you start to push to its limits. Now, when Apple announced the new version with the M2, they decided to keep this laptop selling for the same $999 price tag. Now, that was a very Apple move to make, but I don't think it's completely unjustified. Even in 2023, this is still a completely viable and very powerful machine. And it's also worth considering that just because a new thing came out doesn't make your thing worse. It just means that there's a newer version of it. And in my opinion, the M1 MacBook Air is still worth $1,000 today. That being said, this laptop goes on sale quite a lot. On Black Friday, it was on sale for $749. Pretty often it goes down to $849. And you can find used ones on eBay for as low as like $679. Now, does that mean you should go and get a MacBook Air right now? Not necessarily. I mean, if you're trying to get like crazy performance and you're trying to edit lots and lots of 4K footage, or you just need something more powerful, no, this is not for you. You should probably bump it up to maybe an M1 Pro or M1 Max chip laptop. Or if you're trying to get a computer specifically for gaming, no, you should get a MacBook. You should probably be looking at Legion or Zephyrus or maybe a Victus. Better yet, build your own PC. But if you're maybe a photographer or someone who travels a lot, and you want a laptop for school, for college, or for work, and you just want something that'll last a very long time, and you might find yourself doing some video editing and 1 or 2 games every now and then, this is a very solid machine for the price.